Is it gonna hold the weight? Is it? Ooh. Something my dad's been telling me for months is get yourself down to Carbu and look for some garden bench cast iron arms. Apparently there's loads always for sale and people just can't be bothered to restore them. Now, one of the most time consuming parts that you might find about this job, depending on how long it's been neglected, is undoing all of the rusty bolts. Some came out really easy, but still it's quite a tedious job gripping hold of the bolts to unscrew them all. So the quickest way really is to use an angle grinder. But it started to rain, so shortly I will be taking it indoors to finish it off. Also, don't get rid of the wood just yet because you'll need the bolt holes as a template for later, and some of them vary in width, especially around the curved areas. Next, I needed to remove as much flaky rust as I could. I'm using a wire brush to do it because it was nearby, but if I'd have planned this better, then I would have brought my abrasive angle grinding discs. That speeds through the whole process, trust me. And off camera, I gave it a really good clean and left it to dry near the fire while I worked on the next stage. Now, remember when I said keep hold of those slats because you'll need them? Right now, I'm setting up the table saw to the right cut. So all of them will be cut the same, apart from any that needed to be around the curvedy areas. I don't think this one had any actually, but the next one will. Now, if you don't have a table saw like my dad's down the wood yard, then at home I would use a bandsaw, or you've seen me hand rip using a handsaw or even a jigsaw. Anyway, one thing you'll notice is that the oak planks that I ripped down were slightly shorter than the existing ones. So it wasn't an issue for the bum section, but it did matter for the backrest where there's that big cast iron piece. I had to line up one of the oak slats where the backrest section started, then divide the protruding part in half, and that gave me the cut that I needed. Luckily, these two offcuts were exactly what I needed. Doesn't often turn out like that, but it was perfect. I just needed to take them to the crosscut saw and trim them down. Then a nice sit down rake to hand sand any sharp edges off for the backrest area. And the oak planks that I ripped down, they had a round over edge on either side. And what I had to do after I cut each one is take it to the router table and just take the edge off on the boxy edge to match the other side. And because I wanted to do this all in one day, I left that for now, went back to the cast iron sections and gave it a first coat of spray paint. If you want to make a quick job of it too, then I definitely favour a spray paint over a normal one that you can paint directly to rust. Anyway, while that's drying, let's go back to the planks. Because the new ones were a little bit shorter than the old ones, I had to line up the first edge and mark a bolt hole with my drill, go to the other end, line that up, do the same there. And once I'd drilled my holes, the new shorter piece then became my template, so I could carry on matching that with the rest. Before bolting it all together, something I'd recommend doing now, which I didn't do for the first one because I didn't have it at hand, is to treat all of the planks first, because you've got better access to all the end grains. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, and this project is no different, that I love wearing my own hand-printed liner cut designs. And my favourite design didn't quite make the grade, and that is a running joke in our house. Measure twice, fail less often. I'm sure you've seen me make many mistakes in my projects. And the side joke was, it didn't come out at all as I'd planned. It turns out you shouldn't use soft lino with complex carved detail. Who knew? So last week I thought, why not scan my designs and create my own T-Mill shop and order one? And this isn't sponsored by T-Mill in any way, although I will earn a small commission if you do order one. But the reason I chose this company was I know how the print is going to come out every time, and you don't get that with hand printing. And they can offer so much more choice than I could. And what I've gathered so far is that they're the most ethical print-on-demand company out there with plastic-free packaging. Anyway, for anyone who's been trying to read what my t-shirt said over the last 2 years, now you know what it should say. And if you want to order one, I'll leave a link below. Let's get back to bolting it all together. If you're doing this on your own, you'll find it's a juggling act, unless you're pushing one of the arms against a wall. But as long as you get the first plank in and bolted, it's stable enough so you can work on the rest. Then for the backrest section, I had to line it all up and pre-drill and screw it all together. And once that's bolted to the garden bench, it's not going anywhere. However, I always learn something on my projects, is if yours is just slats throughout, there's no cast iron back section, you really should slot all of the pieces in first before bolting them, because I had to, off camera, unscrew a couple and then get the last ones in. It's really annoying, but yeah, just don't do that mistake. But we're not finished yet. The last things that we have to do is add the supports back. So you should find one bolt from either arm section, and then you can screw that to one of the slats, and then a middle strip, and that just ties it all together and prevents it from bowing. And time for a bums on seats test. Which bench do you think turned out best? And will you be going to a car boot and looking for these?